Hi, welcome to the Tenable Vibrations YouTube channel. I'm your host, Dan Doherty, and today I wanted to discuss a recent injury that I had. And so for those that follow the channel and have maybe seen some of my newsletters, some of the content I've been pushing out, know that about 8 months ago, I left my corporate role and have been spending this year or so with the intention to travel the world. Earlier this year, I did a 2-month trip through South America, which I also posted about and created a separate YouTube video that you could find on the channel. I have also recently did an adventure to Mount Kilimanjaro and climbed that as well. And what I had upcoming, some things that I've shared in some of my writings, were going to Europe for a month. I was going to participate in a High Rocks fitness event. I had a pilgrimage called the Camino de Santiago, and I was going to do that in northern Spain for about 2 weeks or so. And that was going to be around Easter time. I also had a trip planned to Peru, Bolivia. I was going to spend most of the summer traveling through Asia and then wrap up the year in about 2 or 3 months in Africa. And unfortunately, when I was home after my trip to South America and before my next leg and participating in the Camino de Santiago, I actually had a pretty significant injury. And so in the middle of one of my lifts, I felt and heard a loud pop towards my right shoulder. And it kind of took me back to an injury that I had 10 years ago. And so, or actually it's closer to 15. So in 2010, I had a pretty major reconstruction to my right shoulder, a lot of repair to the rotator cuff, 360 labrum repair. It certainly required an extensive recovery. And in the moment when I heard and felt this pop during my exercise, I knew that I was going to be in some trouble. And so I immediately kind of grabbed the area. Luckily, I had some friends close by who were able to kind of help me out of the gym, and we ended up going to the hospital. And, long story short, it ended up being a pec tear. And so the actual pectoral muscle where it attaches to the shoulder joint had completely ruptured, kind of came off the joint. And so certainly required some immediate surgery. So within 2 or 3 weeks of the injury, I was in the operating room. They had to take a cadaver Achilles tendon, and they had to graft a new tendon across the pec and then reattach that to the shoulder joint, and also involved some work being done on the bicep muscle as well. And so pretty extensive injury. It involved 8 weeks of time within a sling, and then it would be 4 months, which I'm still in the middle of this phase. I just got out of the sling a few weeks ago. But I'm still about 2 months away from being able to bear any weight in my right arm, my dominant arm. And so it's a total of 4 months without bearing weight. And then looking at about a 12-month recovery. And according to the doctors, there won't be a period of regaining full strength. And so it was certainly a pretty debilitating experience for me, kind of feeling at the moment, just leaving corporate America, finishing up our first round of trips, having the next round of trips to look forward to, kind of feeling like everything was going in the right direction or the way that I had envisioned it and planned it to go. And then feel like, being thrown a pretty serious hurdle to overcome or a roadblock. And I think the early parts of the injury, I was certainly going through what I would classify as like classic grief symptoms. I think I went through phases of denial and still feeling like I was going to be able to go on these trips, which clearly I was not going to be, or denial that this injury even really occurred. And then there were certainly periods of anger, some low points, depression, and kind of losing the ability to have that mind-body connection and do some of the physical activity that I'm used to. And just a lot of stress, uncertainty around what the recovery process will look like, and also the success of the actual procedure itself, what returning to activity would look like down the road. A lot of frustrating points, to say the least. But what I did find it provided a great opportunity for me to reframe the situation and really put into application some of the things that I've been writing about over the past month or two into practice. Initially the plan for Tenable Vibrations was not really to pick up some of the content, even the podcasts or some of the stuff with breath work and health and wellness that I've been talking about doing with this brand. Wasn't supposed to happen until the completion of my kind a year-long trip traveling throughout the world. And so, I've really taken this opportunity to reframe what it's meant to have this challenge, to really embrace the things that I've been working on and utilizing breath work and the return to a faith-based practice and putting those things into practice, and just to really reaffirm the values that I'm leaning into and living towards, and take a step now towards actually putting this towards my entrepreneurial pursuits and what the plan was going to be later to do those things now. And so, traveling for now is on the back burner, and certainly I could pick those things up once I'm a little bit better towards the end of the year or next year. But I've been excited about this opportunity to get really clear about what the vision is for this brand and to really start putting action towards it, and to start building a following and really just continue to learn and develop the tools that I'll need to be successful in leading kind of a health and wellness brand in particular. And the other thing is provided an immense amount of stillness. Even after leaving corporate America, there was certainly a big shift in the amount of expectations and stress from a day-to-day standpoint. But I still found myself extremely occupied with productivity measures. Despite being in this mode of traveling, there was still quite a bit of movement, climbing mountains, doing multi-day treks, traveling across the world for 2-3 months at a time. There was still quite a bit of preoccupation of the mind and still quite a bit of spinning of a hamster wheel, just a different hamster wheel than what was previous with my corporate employment. And so this has really been a great opportunity for me to find true stillness, to create new routines, and to get clear as to what the path forward looks like for me. And so some of the things that I've done early on to, I think, help aid in the recovery process have really changed my approach to supplement usage. So I've taken on a new protein powder to up my protein intake to make sure I'm not losing too much muscle during this time and keep my protein intake high. I've gone through great lengths to try to eliminate as much carbs from my diet as possible. And so going heavy on things like eggs and avocado, whole foods with veggies and high quality, low fat, high protein meats like turkey, ground chicken, and then supplementing with additional supplements like magnesium and vitamin C, vitamin B, zinc, vitamin D, a whole bunch of supplements to help kind of supplement the diet while I'm in this period of not being able to do as much activity that I'm used to, and thus not necessarily eating the same quantity of food that I had previously, just to try to maintain, a certain level of balanced health while in this period of diminished activity. I think some other things that have been extremely helpful have been really incorporating a mix of prayer, meditation, and breath work as part of my daily morning routines, particularly in the morning as like a replacement for, when I used to go to the gym. And that's been incredibly grounding for me. It's certainly helped tremendously with relaxation and letting go of the outcomes and things that I can't control, and really focusing in on the recovery process, doing the things that my doctors and physical therapists are telling me to do, and just staying focused in on the healing process and really planting my feet where they are at the moment. And, breathwork in particular has been really interesting because, I've actually continued to develop some additional learnings in my breathwork practice and pursuing a certification through a program called the Oxygen Advantage. And it's been really interesting because they primarily work with athletes on helping raise their CO2 tolerance, which in turn will help with performance endurance. So they work a lot with athletes who perform at altitude or do things like football clubs in Europe, rugby players, also endurance athletes like marathon runners and cyclists. And so I've been utilizing some of these routines with like walking and utilizing breath holds as a way to develop some more CO2 tolerance within the body. And some of these exercises, even though you're not necessarily running or sprinting, actually from an aerobic standpoint do mimic and get similar returns from a metabolic standpoint that you can get from doing more high intensity exercising just by incorporating some holds and some different methods for how you breathe. And so I'm interested to see how that helps long term once I am able to get back into running and actual physical exercise, and to see how that's helped me maintain a certain level of physical fitness. I've also found with the breath work is that just getting in tune and touch with the right way of breathing, and that's through nasal breathing and eliminating mouth breathing, both by utilizing tape at night and reinforcing a way of and mode of breathing that's light, slow, and deep. It's activating the diaphragm, has been incredibly helpful in kind of slowing down thoughts within the mind. Rumination of the mind has helped tremendously in aiding my sleep at night. And I certainly have felt a lot calmer. Heart rate's gone down quite a bit. It's helped me maintain a higher heart rate variability. And so from a medical standpoint, biomechanical standpoint, I've certainly have realized some tremendous benefits from incorporating some of the work from the Oxygen Advantage program. And I'm excited to share some of that and some of the future events that we'll be hosting here in a couple months, in helping bring those routines and practices to athletes to help improve endurance, and also business professionals to help, increase focus on tasks at work, and really just for anyone who might just have additional stressors in life that might need to find some relaxation. I've been pretty shocked to just see how fast, full, deep, and at times incorrect my breathing patterns were. And I didn't even realize over the past couple of years. And it's got me really curious as to what level of impact that had on me in my own personal journey through burnout in my corporate job. And now finding through incorporating these tools and breathing the right way, how much calmer and satisfied and generally happy I am in life, and sleeping better and feeling more healthy and vibrant. So thanks for tuning into the episode. Subscribe to the newsletter below. Continue to stay up on my personal journey in the recovery process and leading back to traveling. Also stay tuned for upcoming breathwork events where we'll dive into some of these tools and practices, and continue to stay up to date on some of the podcasts and interviews that we'll be having coming up over the next couple months. But thanks for tuning in, and have a great day.